How's it going, everyone? My name is Mike Handler. I am the Chief Innovation Officer at Awana, and also, I guess, co-founder of the Child Discipleship Forum, and
Sure are.
I've been called the Chief Architect of it as well. So excited to be here with one of my favorite people in the world and partner in ministry, Melanie Hester.
Oh, Mike Handler. I love working with you. All that means, guys, is that Mike Handler has been part of the brains behind the vision and the just reason behind why the Child Discipleship Forum is meeting such a beautiful need in the community. And we're going to get into that in just a second. My name is Melanie. As he said, I serve as the Director of Discipleship Engagement at Awana, and it is just my absolute delight to be able to resource children's ministry leaders like you, to be able to help you connect with parents, to really help connect in that. How do they disciple parents? How do they disciple their kids? How do parents engage with the church? Church, how do you just walk arm in arm with them? And so today we're going to talk a little bit about, though, what does it look like for you as the church leader to just look at all of it in front of you, determine the pieces that you have responsible for on your plate, and then stop and say, okay, but how do I actually do those things? What does it look like for me to invest in myself so that I am then able to lead those parents, to be able to connect those parents to their kids, and to foster a culture of discipleship in your church?
Yeah, we know, Melanie, right, that formation happens all the time. We're being formed, our kids are being formed. It's currently summer break, and it's been that way for us here in the Nashville area for a couple of weeks. Formation's happening even during the time when they're not in school. They're still learning, they're still being formed. And we know that these are formative years, years when, as research would say, worldview is being established, one's identity is being established, their moral compass, their moral foundation is being set. And this happens all the way back to early childhood. We're talking 2 and 3 years old. So it's not as though we can just leave to chance or circumstance or whatever it is how our children are being formed into the people that they'll be today, as well as who they're going to grow into tomorrow. So to your point, as you were talking about before, Melanie, we need to take, as church leaders, as parents, as whomever we might be in the life of the children within our lives and within our ministry, we need to be highly intentional as it relates to the formation and discipleship of our kids so that they can have lasting faith in Jesus no matter the culture or context they find themselves. And that's why we've created the Child Discipleship Forum, or as we call it, the CDF. Because we're Christians, we like acronyms. So the CDF. But that Child Discipleship Forum takes a proactive approach to this understanding of formation and the fact that we need to be intentional in it. We are hosting thought leaders, expert voices, authors, pastors, practitioners, some of the leading voices in some of these areas to provide us the ability to have conversations at the crossroads of culture, church, and children. These are some of the maybe just topics of the most amount of thought and consideration and intentionality that we can have as individuals who are concerned about the children in our lives and the children in our communities. So we're excited about it. Mel, you and your team have been amazing in bringing forward wonderful parts of the experience as we design and architect these types of things. We do so with the intentionality in mind to host these types of conversations at these crossroads of culture, church, and children.
Yeah. And really, it's an opportunity for us to be able to put a stake in the ground, because it's easy for us as children's ministry leaders to get caught up in the details that are necessary and important to make our ministries run, and to be able to welcome and love those children in our communities, the families that are coming in every week, to help them feel welcome and that they have a safe place, and that they are grounded, and they're grounded in what it looks like to have a church body who comes around them. But it's also honestly, it's really easy for us to be able to sit there and just cycle in those details and not pull up for a second to be able to start asking some of the big questions that I'm going to be honest that as a children's ministry leader, I don't always have the answers to. And so the Child Discipleship Forum is the opportunity to be able to gather shoulder to shoulder with leaders and really dive into those questions where we're talking about culture, we're talking about kids, we're talking about the church, and how the intersection of all those things impact the children in our rooms and at our tables, the ones that we're helping to feed the goldfish to and clean the glitter up after. And it helps really give us the opportunity to connect with the big picture of how we then contextualize that into our church communities.
Well, and the wonderful thing is, too, we're not doing this on our own. So one of the reasons why we call this event a forum is because we want you together, like you said, Mel, shoulder to shoulder, but maybe more appropriately in person if you're joining us in the Nashville area, specifically in Franklin, Tennessee, which is, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be here, but
that's true. So
if you're able to join us live, you'll be at a round table with other practitioners within the space of children's ministry, child discipleship, and you'll find yourself to be able to have intentional times of conversation where you are, responding to and interacting with the ideas and the thoughts that are presented from the main stage. That's one of the unique things about our particular event is that these are all main stage speakers. So we're all experiencing and hearing the same thing, whether you're joining us live in person or you're a part of an individual or a team joining us online. And we try to create an intentional environment that's both very thought-provoking as well as practical. So we're going to be covering a range of topics together. We're going to be looking at things like gender and identity and relationships. We're going to be looking at topics like the loneliness epidemic that our kids are just living in the midst of, how technology forms our kids, fatherlessness and issues regarding that type of kind of formation, the importance of the tween years as it relates to kind of these rites of passage that maybe some of our traditions don't hold as closely to, but others around the world make a bigger deal of. It's these types of things that we're going to enter into and engage together in order to understand how we can be more, again, I'm going to use the word intentional here, in our discipleship of the children in our lives. So I'm pretty stoked about it. In addition to hearing wonderful voices from leading speakers and thinkers in these areas, we're also going to be very practical in the sense that everybody who's joining us, whether in person or online, is going to receive a workbook, a guidebook of sorts to help you walk through the 2 days. It's going to be able to be your place to take notes, of course, but you're also going to have engaging questions. There's going to be other activities and things like that to really help you make the most of the 2-day experience and to bring it home with you. Melanie, you and I have both been to a lot of conferences where we might have a conference notebook and with all the best intentions, it sits on our desk or, it gets into a storage drawer or whatever else. Our hope is that you have a couple good pages of content that you are actually implementing and employing as we engage in ministry, even as soon as this fall, right? As we welcome kids back, we want to be able to say, okay, this is what I learned and this is how I'm implementing it, even as soon as the next week. So that is the desire that we can come alongside some of the people who are doing the most important work in the church, that of child discipleship, and being able to give them what they need almost immediately to be able to bring it back to their ministries.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if you're listening and you're like, great, you've caught me on the vision, I'm here, I'm connected, I want to come, but help me know, what are the 2 days going to look like? Let's dive in.
Yeah. So like I said before, there's going to be, we don't do breakouts or anything like that. All we do are plenary sessions, so main stage type of sessions. Some of those are going to be a little bit longer form, 30 minutes plus, and those are going to be from individuals like Dr. George Barna, Matt Markin, CEO of Awana. It's going to be from individuals like Justin Whitmore Early, Rebecca McLaughlin, and so many others they'll be bringing. Glenn Packiam, who we just did a podcast with yesterday. It's going to be kind of full throttle during those times. And then there's also going to be kind of some shorter version, not short, but shorter version, not 30 minutes plus, but like 20-minute type of like rapid fire TED Talk type of things. And those are going to be very I would say some of my favorite speakers at CDF events are those that are in that kind of 20-minute range, the kind of hard hitting, rapid fire type of topics where they're bringing kind of some of the understanding to some things that we don't think about often. I mean, one of those things, Melanie, just practically speaking, is the exposure to pornography that a lot of children just happen to find themselves in, and what that does as it forms identity. Again, we need to be intentional about these things. So that's just one example, technology formation being another. The beautiful understanding of orthodoxy, like these are the types of practical conversations that we're going to enter into there as it relates to being participating in the CDF, whether in person or online. We're also going to have incredible worship. When God's people come together, there's always an occasion to worship Jesus. And we're going to be doing that with one of the best worship leaders around, Thad Cockrell. That is a singer. Travis Cottrell, who most recently has been leading worship at Brentwood Baptist. Travis is an amazing musician, songwriter, accompanist, arranger of worship, just amazing. So we're totally stoked about having him lead us in that pursuit together of worshiping Jesus and making much of him. We're also going to be having an amazing resource center for those joining us live. So if you're joining us in person in Nashville, there's going to be a curated resource center that is going to have, of course, all the resources from the speakers who will be with us, but also some other staff picks and highlighted resources that we've found helpful and engaging as it relates to some of the topics at hand. And then if you're joining us online, you'll have that via kind of some links in the chat and from our online hosts. And that's one more thing, if I can, Melanie, here really quickly.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, for those joining us online, you'll be, it's kind of like a second experience, if you will. And I don't mean second as in like not first. I mean second in terms of like the intentionality.
Yep.
The programming, the effort put into it. You'll have your own hosts who will be guiding and leading you. If you're joining us as an individual, you'll be joined by a table discussion with practitioners who I mean, Melanie and I both know these individuals. They are some of the best
we respect
people.
Them so much. Yep.
Yeah, they are some of our favorites, and some CDF speakers from the past, like Sam Luce and Catherine Huang Jin and Santos Swanamas. I mean, individuals who live this out on a day in, day out basis. So they're going to be your kind of conversation guides. So if you're joining us as an individual online, you're not going to be alone. You're going to be able to participate in the company of others. And if you're joining us as a team online, which is another option, Melanie, a lot of times, let's just be realistic. Church budgets don't allow for everybody to travel to Nashville. But if your team gathers online, you have the ability to mute our conversation so that you can have your own conversation. There'll be visual cues on the screen. You'll be able to not feel like you're missing out on a single thing. And you'll be able to host an amazing day that will impact your team, both in the immediate as well as the long term.
The online experience is so unique to be able to give that access. Again, like Mike said, if your team just can't make it in person because, again, hello budgets, to be able to gather your team for 2 intentional days and to then know that like we have crafted the online experience for your team to be able to have these same robust conversations at the table that you are sitting at. And so you'll see through our online hosts and through as you heard, Catherine and Sam and Santosh, and they're leading the conversation, it's going to give you a launching point to be able to really dive into these topics with your team and create a robust conversation around how is this impacting your specific community. And so online, know that we are very specifically curating this experience for you to be able to walk away and it doesn't feel like you're an observer, but you are a part of this. You are engaging with this, and we can't wait for you to be able to come and join us in the online community if you're watching it from where you're at. But from those of you who are going to be in person, there's a whole host of things that we're intentionally curating for you as well. And so if you're like, hey, Nashville is totally driving distance for me, I'm in. I want to be there. And also, as Mike said before, Franklin is amazing. It's this really great town. It has so many amazing, if you're addicted to caffeine like I am, it has so many amazing coffee shops for you to be able to check out. And so Franklin's a great place to come visit. And we're going to kick off our whole time together with a welcome party at the factory the night before to be able to say, hey, you want to come join the factory? Is this amazing place? So Mike, you live there. I'm not going to talk about the factory. You tell me why it's really cool that we're going to be gathering there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're joining us in person, new this year is a welcome reception that is being brought to us by Bright, which is a curriculum from Awana, and the welcome reception for CDF is going to be at, like Mel said, the factory. It's a commercial and retail space that has some of our family's favorite foods from Nashville, things like Five Daughters Donuts.
They're good. They have gluten-free too.
Oh, yeah.
They have gluten-free donuts too, for those of you who are like, well, that convinced me.
I'm not even a donut person, but if you give me a purist, I'm all in. Like, let's go. I'm all in on that. Also, there is a ton of
honest coffee. We can't leave them out.
No, they're our daily brew here at Hamler House. We also
good.
have Etley's, which is barbecue. Daddy's Dogs, a hot dog place, which, I mean, I'm from Chicago, but they're still good.
It's your
Otaku ramen. There's also Jenny's ice cream.
Stop for a second. Jenny's ice cream. If you have not had Jenny's ice cream, you're gonna need to stop and get some.
You're just not gonna go hungry when you're here.
You're not.
And the best thing is, as well, at the welcome reception, you're able to kind of handle some of those logistics that you would take place kind of when you first walk in Thursday morning. So you'll be able to pick up your name tag, probably your workbook as well. You'll be able to meet some other people. Maybe get a head start on building some relationships. Maybe you find some people who you're going to sit with at the round tables at the forum event itself. So it's a fantastic way to kind of not just ease in, but to really enter in to the CDF experience. And it's a brand new part of the experience for us this year. This is our 4th year doing CDF, hosting it, putting it on. So we're always learning, always improving, always trying to make it better. And just a more intentional experience, saying that word again, for those who are joining us in person. But also, there's going to be times built throughout the day to network, to talk to other people, to rub shoulders with individuals like yourself who are either leading in children's ministry or youth ministry or pastoral efforts at their church or at their community. On top of that, if you're a parent who's hearing this and saying, man, I'm not involved in my church staff or as a volunteer or whatever, but I still want to be at this because some of the topics that you're talking about touch really close to home, you are welcome. Like, come on. We'd love to have you a part of this. And this will still be something that you're going to find a lot of value in. When we architect this thing, I'm a parent of 4 kids. There's not a speaker or a choice that we make that I don't think, I wish my neighbors could hear this. I wish those who are with me walking in life together, that I want them to hear this. Every single individual who we ask to be a part of these things is going to provide content that's going to add value, that's going to be gospel centered, that's going to allow us to be more intentional in our discipleship and formation with the kids in our lives and those who we minister to on a daily and weekly basis.
Yep. Yeah. And the great part about that, I want to go back to what you said just a few minutes ago, that coming to the factory the night before and being able to engage and get your stuff ahead of time and check in and all sorts of things. There's a key part here where you're going to be able to, if your kids love stickers when you travel, if you're one who loves to pick up postcards and send them to people from places that you go to, this is the place to do that. You're going to be able to find those things within the factory. If you happen to join us a couple of years ago, we actually met at the factory. We hosted at the factory. But more importantly, I want to sit in the networking piece, that if you want to gather, because we're going to be having you sit at tables with other people, other leaders from other churches. And so if you're looking to find somebody to really make this a worthwhile conversation, because when you wind up coming the next day, you're going to go and begin to have conversations again on church, kids, culture. And by meeting them the night before, it's going to really give you the fuel and the energy to be able to dive into that conversation 100% connected the next day and make that a really robust time and make really good use of connecting with each other in a beautiful way. So again, please, please, please come and network so that you can use those relationships as opportunities the next day to be able to have these robust conversations.
Plus, this year at the CDF, we're debuting a bunch of different resources, a bunch of different solutions and tools, some of which we're not going to talk about right now because we want you to be surprised and delighted when you join us. But one thing that we'll mention real quick here is the book coming out from Moody Press called Forming Faith. Forming Faith is an intentional. I'll use that word in 1 second. But Forming Faith is really a guidebook to help church leaders build bridges of influence as it relates to the discipleship within the home. You know, so many individuals, when surveyed and asked who is responsible for the discipleship of children, so many of those within the children's ministry community point across the aisle and say, well, clearly it's the parents. You know, they have 168 hours a week with their kids. Like, clearly it's the parents. But that same survey, when answered by parents or others within the congregation, point right back to the children's ministry and say, well, clearly it's these guys. They're the professionals. So what we have is this kind of like stalemate. We've talked about this before. It's this kind of finger pointing here. I'm trying to do this on the screen, you know, where you have parents pointing back to the children's ministry people pointing back to the parents, and it's creating this kind of stalemate or standoff. What Forming Faith, that book that we're introducing at the CDF this year, is trying to help those within the children's ministry space build bridges of influence and instruction as it relates to the intentional discipleship of kids within the home. Parents, it can be a really scary prospect. We don't feel like we're properly trained or equipped. And Forming Faith tries to come alongside church leaders to say, okay, how do we form a plan to make it achievable and likely that parents are able to feel equipped to bring discipleship within their home. So totally stoked about that resource. We're introducing that at the CDF. If you don't join us, you'll still have ability to get a copy, but if you join us, you'll get first dibs, if you will, on those as they come out in September.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, there will be a resource attached to the book that is going to help you practically implement those ideas. So just know that you're going to want to come because you're going to want first dibs on that to be able to help take that and practically live out what it looks like to walk across that bridge, connect arms with the parents in your community and say, hey, we're doing this together. Let's stop kind of like pointing fingers and saying like, we need more time. You need to be more invested, and let's just work together for the sake of the discipleship of the kids in our community. So, all right, well, Mike, I think we've covered Resource Center and that there's going to be books available for you to buy there from various speakers. There's going to be I think we forgot to let everybody know that if you are on site, we've tried to make everything super easy for you in the sense of like, we're providing lunch for you. All right. So don't have to worry about food there. We're also providing coffee. Again, I'm just really making it obvious that I drink way too much caffeine. So that's a good thing for most of us, and that coffee will be available. So we will you can have your fill, whatever that fill looks like.
We're stopping short of IVs this year, but there will be a lot of coffee and caffeine available to all.
There will be coffee and then also snacks, because you can't, sit through these conversations and without having something to be able to fill your belly, give you some energy, and continue on. So food will be available, and that's just a part of the forum and how we want to make you feel comfortable and connected to really dive in, listen, learn, and connect with those around you.
Yeah, really, this is kind of like an all-inclusive learning environment. It's one of those things where you come, you kind of just You don't have to worry about finding food in Franklin or anywhere in the Nashville area, although it happens to be in abundance. But everything's here. Everything's going to be provided for. It's all a part of your registration, and it's there in order to help bring you into an incredible 2 days of content, of learning, of discussion, of dialogue, of just being able to, again, be intentional. There's the word again regarding the formation of the children in our lives.
Absolutely. So we're going to throw everything into the comments for you to be able to get the links you need. ChildDiscipleshipForum.com is going to give you more information around how do I register, who are the exact speakers that are going to be coming, what is more about around Nashville. There's frequently asked questions that can help you know, like what hotel should I book to stay at, and so on and so forth. Those things are there, but this is just an opportunity for us to gather. Mike and I are going to be there with a whole host of our, just honestly, the greatest people in the world, both our coworkers, our friends, our leaders in the ministry, and we want to meet and see you there. So please join us, register today, and I'll be looking for you.
It'll be great to have you guys here, whether in person or online. We're excited about it, and we just hope that we can be a provider of insight and resource and solutions as it relates to discipling and forming faith in Jesus that lasts a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll see you guys in Nashville or online. Okay. Let's register. See you there.
Take care.